Welcome to Part 2 of our Literature QA tutorial. As a quick synopsis of Part 1, at this point you should have assigned yourself a title you want to review using the Assignments page, downloaded the Labs app, and downloaded just the audiobook you signed up to review. Let's take a step back and consider why we're focused on ensuring the highest level of quality for these audiobooks. Our students often come to Learning Ally after a long struggle with reading. For them, our audiobooks can be a revelation, making them feel positive about reading, often for the very first time. So you can imagine the disappointment they would feel if our audiobook doesn't meet their expectations because of poor quality. This is why we're trusting you to report anything you may find that may have a negative impact on the student experience. Our students are counting on us. To get started, let's review the 8 major things we'll be looking for during our review. Synchronization is key. If what we see is not what we hear, then that book is not functioning properly. If you're reviewing a title that has images in it, pay close attention to before and after those images. If you ever see the words empty heading appear in a book, please report it. Always pay close attention to headings and chapters, noting that they are consistently announced and navigable. Always be on the lookout for audio problems, whether it's a buzz, clicks, breath, hum, background noise, or inconsistent audio levels. Pay close attention to ensure there are no typos along the way. Be sure that page numbers are never announced, and at the end of every single book, we want to be sure the About This Learning Ally audiobook blurb is always announced. Synchronization is very important. As you can see, our voice text books feature highlighting that moves in sync with the narrator's voice. This is a big one. If what we see doesn't match with what we're hearing, it's distracting and makes student comprehension near impossible. Let's look at how we check for sync errors in our most popular books. I'll point out other issues along the way, and if you need any further clarification, please feel free to review your QA guidelines. Let's review a couple of different types of books to see how we approach the QA process for them. We're going to start with a children's book. We have The Cat in the Hat queued up here, and I'll show you how to approach a book like that. With books like this, where there are a lot of images, we need to be certain those images perform correctly. And that means it pauses on the images for 2 to 3 seconds, and then progresses back into the text. It should be a natural flow. For these audiobooks, you'll need to listen to the whole book in its entirety, from start to finish. You'll need to ensure there's no odd audio sounds, awkward pauses, and that none of the images freeze up.
And we did not like it, not one little bit. And then, something went bump. How that bump made us jump.
So as we can see, the book played through correctly. The images paused for a logical amount of time. If you were approaching QA for this book, you would start at the beginning of it and play through every page, making sure to look for just those things along the way, confirming that no page numbers are announced. You're also looking for typographical errors and ensuring there's no extra or omitted audio along the way. Very similar to children's books, we also have another type of book called graphic novels. Graphic novels are just a long comic book. They are becoming increasingly popular with our student base. You'll need to listen to them in their entirety. They consist of many images, as you would imagine in a long-form comic book. It should play in accordance with how the story is progressing.
It was my very own alarm clock, set for 6:30 on the dot.
And just like a children's or young adult fiction book, we want to be certain that no page numbers are announced, and looking for typos along the way. So if you see a graphic novel, be aware that you need to listen to the whole thing. The next type of book we'll take a look at is young adult fiction. This is a slightly different approach than a children's book or a graphic novel. I'll take you through it. We'll review Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. With a book like this, you listen to the first 2 pages of every chapter or heading in their entirety. If they perform correctly, you'll scroll through every page, being sure that no page numbers are announced, and looking for typos and any other audio issues and anything from our checklist along the way. The easiest way to do that is simply to scroll through here using your page forward option.
They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Mrs. Potter, little tyke, chortled Mr. Dursley as he left the house. He got into his car. They were whispering excitedly together.
By clicking through every page like this, we can be certain that each page is at least starting at the right point and is in sync, as these are the most likely places where we may find any issues. Although not always the case, you may notice more issues around page breaks. If you're working on a very long title, where the chapters may be longer than 25 pages, you may find it best to navigate directly to the next chapter, which is where you would use the Table of Contents tool we viewed earlier.
Chapter 3. The Letters from No One.
You'll do this throughout the whole book, noting everything you've been looking for along the way on your QA worksheet. At the end of every single book in our library, there is a Learning Ally audiobook blurb. This needs to be at the end of every book. The last thing you should do is to be certain that it is also there and read as well. Once you've completed all that, you've finished the title and are ready to progress to the next one. The last type of book you may see is historical fact or fiction book, really any kind of book that just has a number of images throughout. For this example, we have The Boys Who Challenged Hitler, and I want to show you what this kind of audiobook looks like. In the same way you would approach a young adult fiction book, we're going to use our 2 pages at the beginning of every chapter or heading method. In your travels through the book, you'll find images throughout. Make a point to review before and after each one of them. So we see an image coming up here, so the best way we can review it is to just click a sentence before it and let it play through.
By the end of the day, there were 16,000 Germans on Danish soil, and Germany was in total control. A German soldier in Copenhagen, April 9, 1940. Operation Weserübung.
This book has a number of images throughout, and I'm not suggesting with such a long title that you listen to the book in its entirety. When you see images in your search, just make a point to check them along the way. Remember to check for the Learning Ally audiobook blurb at the end of every book. These are all the different types of books you'll see in literature QA checking. As a quick reminder, be sure to fill out your literature QA worksheet for every title you work on and submit it at the end of the day of volunteering. Be sure to submit your hours at the Log Hours tab. Let's take a moment to review what we've learned. Synchronization is key. Pay close attention to before and after images, if there are any. Report empty heading text. Headings and chapters should be consistently announced and navigable. Listen for audio quality issues. Note any typos. Page numbers should not be announced. Be sure to remember if you're working on a children's book or graphic novel that we listen to these in their entirety, paying close attention to all the images. For longer novels, we listen to the first 2 pages of every heading or chapter, being sure to check each page number along the way. At the end of every single book, we want to be sure the About This Learning Ally audiobook blurb is always announced. Thank you for your help. We could not do what we do without your energy or efforts. Your work helps ensure our students' ongoing success. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us on the QA Twist channel or via email.